Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the New Orleans Pelicans. Back on January 1st, they were tied with the Memphis Grizzlies for the 2 seed in the Western Conference with a record of 23-13 and just a single game back of the Denver Nuggets for the 1 seed, a spot that they actually held at multiple points throughout that beginning portion of the season. And it was in most part due to the play of Zion, who had returned from injury and not just not missed a step, but he was playing the best basketball of his career, and he was surrounded by the best supporting cast he had ever had. In fact, it was a supporting cast that went to the playoffs without Zion. They made it through the play-in tournament to be the 8th seed against the Phoenix Suns in the first round, a team that had just set their franchise record in wins, yet the Pelicans pushed them to a really competitive 6 games. This was mostly due to the play of Brandon Ingram, who had an amazing first playoff series and seems like the perfect co-star to go alongside Zion Williamson. He can create his own shot, he can play off ball, he can space the floor, and do basically everything in between. CJ McCollum came in at the trade deadline as a great addition to be that starting point guard, a role that he typically hasn't played, but has excelled in New Orleans. You also had a great play from a cast of young guys like Trey Murphy III, who seems like an amazing future 3-and-D wing with a lot more upside than I think people realize. Herb Jones was an immediate impact defender as a rookie. Jose Alvarado had Chris Paul flustered at moments, and is just one of those guys that a championship team loves to have, a defender who can just get under the skin of opposing offensive players. Larry Nance Jr. was a great role player. Najee Marshall came into this season hooping. Everything seemed to be going really good for the Pelicans at the beginning of the year. Now we flash forward to today, where they are 32-34 following last night's win against the Dallas Mavericks. They're sitting at the 10 seed, 1 game ahead of the Thunder, Blazers, and Jazz, who are all tied at 11th, and they're on the verge of slipping out of the play-in tournament entirely if things don't go their way the rest of the season. So they completely fell from seeming dark horse championship contender to now we don't even know if they're going to make the play-in tournament. This was also despite Brandon Ingram, the guy who's supposed to be their second star alongside Zion, missing the entire month of December with a toe injury. So it just seemed like a matter of time for the Pelicans to get healthy, and they were going to dominate the Western Conference, or at least be one of the biggest forces in that sphere. However, they're going to be great when they're healthy is something that we've been saying about this Pelicans team for years now, and in particular this season, because they have been absolutely decimated by injuries. When we talk about Brandon Ingram, he not only missed the entire month of December, but he also played just 3 games in January, which has now led him to having only played 31 games out of the Pelicans' 66 so far, and last night in that win over the Dallas Mavericks, he sprained his ankle, so we don't know if that's going to also cost him some time. It seems like there's a chance he could maybe play through it. We haven't heard any specific updates, but even if he does play through it, he's now hindered by this ankle injury, and as someone who's had a million of those before, that's not easy to play through. In fact, with Ingram's 4 seasons with the Pelicans, he is yet to eclipse more than 61 games played for the team in a single season. And this year, even if he comes back from that ankle injury, he's fine and he plays every game the rest of the year, he'll only play 47 games, which is the lowest in his career. Then there's Zion, who, like I said, originally looked like a potential dark horse MVP contender, but since January 2nd, a day after they were tied with the Grizzlies for the 2 seed, right behind the Nuggets for the 1 seed, he hasn't played since then. He's been out with a hamstring injury, and we've gotten no real updates. Today, as I'm recording this video, the only report we have so far is that he's not exactly close to returning, and there was some kind of setback, which to me, with only like 16 games left in the season for the Pelicans, sounds like there's a real potential chance he misses not just the rest of the regular season, but perhaps the rest of the year in total, even if the Pelicans make the playoffs. And even if they do, he's now going to have to come back into a playoff environment coming off a brutal hamstring injury, which has kept him out for multiple months at this point. Now, as I'm sure you know, this isn't the first time that Zion has dealt with a substantial injury. It's become a running theme throughout his early career. He played only 24 games out of 72 in his rookie season. In his second season, he played 61 out of 82, but that's the highest he got, as last year he didn't play a single game, and so far he's only played 29. In total, Z has only played 39% of all possible regular season games through these first 4 years of his career, and it gets worse if we include the play-in games and the playoff games. Now, obviously, this is a big problem. When he's healthy, Zion, in my opinion, is a top 15 player in the league and close to top 10 when he's consistently on the court. He's such a unique combination of speed, physicality, and size. He can finish with finesse around the basket, hit you with a 360 dunk or a windmill, postering your best rim protector. He was even having his best season so far shooting. He's a lot better playmaker than people realize. He sets everything up for this team. They're orchestrated to play well around Zion, and you could see it, like I said, at the beginning of the year. Even when Ingram was out, Zion was doing such incredible things alongside the supporting cast that they were close to being the best team in the West. It was only a matter of time when Ingram came back that they were going to be a threat to everybody out there. But if your best player can't stay on the court, there's not much that the Pelicans can do. Brandon Ingram is great, and I think he's an amazing secondary star next to Zion, but I don't think he can carry a team all the way through a playoff run or hold them down long enough in this really deep Western Conference to wait for Zion to make a comeback. And even Ingram himself has become injury prone. Like I mentioned, there haven't been many seasons where he's consistently available. So now the Pelicans have two injury prone stars that they're hoping to lead this franchise into the future. And I do think when healthy, they can do that. But with the current situation, it seems unlikely that they're ever going to be able to stay on the court consistently long enough to lead the Pelicans to a title. It's easy for us to continuously say when Zion is healthy, when Zion comes back, they'll be fine, which I hope is the case. I really hope Zion, this hamstring setback doesn't keep him out for very long. He can return at the end of the regular season. The Pelicans can make the play-in and eventually the playoffs, because I think they can be so dangerous in that first round if everybody's healthy. But if he doesn't come back soon or at all, there's a real chance that the Pelicans just straight up miss the play-in tournament. Everything is so close, like I mentioned, and even if they make the play-in tournament and still don't have Zion, there's so many great teams that could potentially be there to knock them out. The Golden State Warriors could be in the play-in, the Timberwolves, the Jazz, possibly even the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Warriors. Even if the Thunder, the Lakers, or the Blazers are in there, none of those teams are pushovers. Not a single team that I mentioned is a pushover for the Pelicans without Zion Williamson. If he comes back, the story might be different, but if Z doesn't come back or this ankle injury hinders Brandon Ingram, there's a real chance that they just miss the play-in after what seemed like such a great promising year at the beginning. You can always say, oh, just wait till next season, which is what I did last year, because like I said, coming into the season, I really thought this Pelicans team could be the breakout team of the year. They could have Zion as an MVP candidate, Ingram could be an all-star, they could be a dark horse contender, and it seemed like they were potentially on a path to doing all of those things. But then again, the injuries immediately piled up about halfway through the season, and they just haven't been the same since, falling all the way down the standings. I can say this again for next year. Just wait till next season. They can be healthy, have Zion, have Ingram, another year of development for guys like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado. They could bring in more talented pieces. But even then, I don't know how many games either of these guys are going to consistently play. I'm trying to stay optimistic about all the injuries, but there's a part of me that's starting to wonder more and more, are we ever going to see this full team healthy for a consistent period of time? I really don't know if we will, with Zion's injury issues, with Brandon Ingram's, some other guys on this team have missed time as well. I just don't know what's going to happen with this squad. I've even seen some Pelicans fans say, if we miss the playoffs, if Zion doesn't come back, if Ingram deals with more injuries, we need to trade one of them, because we can't have two injury-prone stars on the same team. That's where Pelicans fans are at this point. Like I said, the Pelicans did make the playoffs last year without Zion, and maybe they do that again, but the goal with this core heading into the season wasn't the playoffs. They did that last year, and they showed in a first-round series, hey, if we had Zion, we could have potentially won this thing against the 1 seed. The goal for this team this season was a championship or some sort of sustained deep playoff run, and if they were healthy, I think they'd have a legitimate shot at both of those things. Instead, it feels like yet another lost season due to injury, one of many that the Pelicans have had so far, when it was supposed to be the exact opposite. Now, I do want to wrap up the video by saying I'm still going to try to remain optimistic that this is going to work out, because I want to see this really talented squad get a chance. Also, if they don't make the playoffs, it's not all bad, because they will get a lottery pick in this year's stacked draft class, just another young piece to add next to Zion, Ingram, and the rest of the guys on that roster. Also, if the Lakers don't end up making the playoffs, that's another chance for them to potentially get a high lottery pick, because they do own a pick swap with the Lakers. So say the Pelicans do end up making the playoffs, the Lakers don't, they could still swap that pick, so they could still get a lottery selection. So it's most likely that the Pelicans will have some pick in the lottery. They could add more young talent, and hopefully next season, it is the year where they can all stay healthy. Additionally, I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed that Zion can return this season, Ingram will be fine with that ankle injury, and they can give us one of the most entertaining first-round series against one of the top seeds in the Western Conference playoffs. With all that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a ton. Also, comment down below letting me know, what do you think the Pelicans should do? Should they trade one of these stars like some fans have suggested, or should they just try and wait this thing out, because this team really could be special if given the time and the opportunity to do so? Appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real One Safe back.